If you're a towing business running Google Ads and you want to increase your number of phone calls without simply increasing your budget, then this video is for you. I'll share 6 smart strategies based on my experience managing towing campaigns, and those strategies can help to increase the number of phone calls and reduce the cost of those phone calls when applied correctly. So let's get started. So guys, we're in our Google Ads dashboard, and if you're a towing company and you want to increase the number of higher quality phone calls from Google Ads for your towing business, then in this video I'm going to share with you some strategies based on my experience managing towing campaigns, and I've generated thousands of phone calls using Google Ads in this industry. This is one of our example account, and this is an account of a towing business. And as you can see, in the last 30 days, we've generated 337 phone calls and around 215 conversions. And this cost per conversion is calculated based on this number. But if you're going to calculate cost per phone call, this number can be even cheaper. So as you can see, if you calculate cost per phone call, it is around $15. But that would be a better way of calculating cost per phone call, because you might have several phone calls and it might be coming from one person. Or you might have missed phone calls. Or you might have phone calls which are less than 5 seconds, less than 10 seconds, which might not be higher quality phone calls. And with these conversions, we're trying to track higher quality phone calls than this number of phone calls. And $23.62 is calculated by using these conversion numbers. So let's see which strategies I would recommend you if you're a towing service business. A quick reminder, I've generated thousands of phone calls using Google Ads. If you want to copy my exact Google Ads campaign structure to generate phone calls, I'm giving it away for free. You can use it as a blueprint or copy it into your own account. Link is in the description below. So the first thing I would suggest, you exclude impound related searches and competitor names early on using maps. So you might open Google Maps, and in your nearby location, you can find your competitor names in your target location and add them as your negative keywords, or you can extract their root terms, which might be related to company names, and you can add them as your negative keywords. So that would be one way. And another way would be you can add irrelevant services such as impounding, impounded, cargo towed, my car towed, or these kind of search terms. You can list those kind of keywords and add them as negative keywords early on, so that in the future you may not get clicks or impressions from those kind of search terms. So for that, either you can use Google Maps and find your competitor names, and also you can use Keyword Planner, for example, and put your target keywords such as towing, tow truck, and it can give you more keyword ideas. Let's say 400 plus keyword ideas, and out of that you can find keywords which can include competitor names or irrelevant services. So the next good strategy, you can focus on top performing areas and limit your performance with underperforming areas, or you can pause those areas. So let's say it could be at a keyword level or at an ad group level, or you can have several locations within a target location. So let's say if you're targeting a certain location and it might have several cities, and certain cities might perform better than the other. So that means you can adjust their bid so that you can bid more on winning cities, or you can exclude certain cities which are not profitable and focus only on better performing cities. And same can be applied with the keywords, which can be performing better and which can be performing worse. So we can see that example if you're going to go to the target keyword section, and if you're going to sort them by their number of conversions, as you can see, certain keywords might be performing better than the other. For example, the average cost per conversion with these given keywords is around $24. But certain keywords might be much cheaper. For example, $18, $18. As you can see, you can focus more on these kind of keywords. And certain keywords might be slightly expensive, like their cost per conversion is around $30. And if you're getting like consistent number of conversions which are expensive, then you can consider pausing these kind of keywords. For example, I've generated 5 conversions in the last 30 days, which is not a lot with this keyword. If I would be generating, let's say, 10 plus conversions and still that would be over $30, I might consider these kind of keywords as expensive keywords, and I can also pause them. And you can go through the list of keywords like this, and as you can see, certain keywords are way cheaper than the average. For example, this keyword and this keyword, $16, $13 cost per conversion. And to do that, looking at the longer time range would be better. For example, we are seeing the last 30 days, and if you can see the last 90 days, 120 days, 150 days, that would be a lot better, and you can have more data, and the data can be more reliable. And the next thing is related to tracking conversions. So we're going to go to tools, and the conversion, we're going to go to summary. And from here, because tracking conversions is really, really important in the towing industry, and if you track them right, that can help you a lot to bring higher quality conversions in the future. Let's imagine you have a conversion tracking here, and you can receive conversions directly from ads. And there is another way of tracking phone call conversions, which might be coming from the website. But let's talk about tracking conversions from the ads. So if you're tracking phone calls more than 60 seconds as conversions, it can have much better quality than the phone calls that you're tracking as more than 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Because not every single more than 10-second, 20-second phone call can be higher quality conversion. But more than 60-second phone calls, the chance of being it higher quality can be much better. So that's why if you can track call length more than 60 seconds, it can improve your chance of getting those kind of higher quality phone calls in the future, because Google might consider that as a conversion and it might try bringing you more and more of those kind of conversions in the future, because otherwise you might invalidate phone calls less than 20 seconds, less than 40 seconds as not conversions, and phone calls more than 60 seconds can be recorded as conversions. And with that way, it can try to bring more and more of these kind of conversions. So setting up your call length longer can be beneficial, but try to make sure that you are using that call length which can bring you more higher quality conversions. Sometimes if you try to put call length too high, that might be really hard for Google to generate those kind of conversions. Let's say you have set up that as more than 120 seconds or more than 90 seconds, which can be a little bit harder than generating phone calls more than 60 seconds. So try to put much more realistic numbers so that your campaigns can easily generate those kind of phone calls. And the next thing in our list, which is relevant to the previous example, which is if you receive phone calls which are irrelevant or people are looking for your competitors, you can just make the conversation shorter. Let's say if your call length here is, let's say, more than 30 seconds or more than 60 seconds, try to make the conversations shorter than this call length limit. Let's say if somebody is looking for your competitor names, try to make this conversation less than 30 seconds so that Google doesn't count it as a conversion. So with that way, you can help Google to identify which kind of phone calls you want. So in short, if you want to help Google accurately track the real conversions, one way of helping that would be making the conversations shorter than your call length limit if they're irrelevant. If they're relevant, try to make them longer than the call length. That is also a smart strategy that you can apply, and that's one way of helping Google Ads to track conversions. And the next thing in our list, you should build highly targeted campaign structures. So you might have several campaigns depending on your goals, the type of services, or depending on your daily budget. For example, with this account, our daily budget is $242, but it may not spend all of these $242. Sometimes it might spend $200, $180, let's say more than $200. And you might have several campaigns depending on your campaign structure. And your campaign structure should be very targeted to generate phone calls. I would not suggest you to just build a generic campaign structure which can be used for any Google Ads campaign for any industry, let's say for e-commerce or software, because from YouTube you may see a person explaining how to create Google Ads. And that Google Ads campaign creation might be very generic and might not be that targeted and may not be focused on generating phone calls. It might be just a generic Google Ads campaign which can send traffic to your website, and the quality might be medium. Sometimes it might bring phone calls, sometimes it might not be able to bring phone calls. So the goal is you can create several campaigns, and each campaigns can have several ad groups, and each ad group should have targeted keywords. And with that way, try to make sure that you have targeted campaign structure which is focused on generating phone calls for your business, because that's one of the most crucial thing you can do with your campaign setup. And another smart strategy would be allocate your daily budget based on each completed job. That might be a little bit harder to do. For example, one way would be based on call length, as I told. If the call length, let's say more than, 60 seconds, you would consider that as a real job. Or let's say 60 seconds might not be long enough. Maybe let's say if it's more than 3 minutes, you can consider that as a real job. But that's one way. Another way would be importing conversions, which is a little bit harder and sometimes may not be manageable. But at least if you can do that with the call length, it would be close to real, and at least your conversion numbers might be close to accurate, and you can optimize your campaigns, ad groups, and keywords based on that conversion date. But if you can do that, that can help you a lot to identify which areas of your campaigns are bringing more real jobs than others, and you can make optimizations, budget allocation, and overall you can make changes by looking at the data. And same can be applied, let's say if you have several landing pages. You can say which landing page is performing better than the other and generating more conversions. But overall, if you can do that, and if you can track your conversions close to real numbers, then it can help you a lot to make your optimization. So guys, these are some of the ways if you're a towing business and you can apply them and make your optimizations using some of these strategies. And again, if you guys want to copy the type of my campaign structure, you can click the link in the description below. Or if you guys want my help to generate phone calls for your towing business using Google Ads, you can also apply to work with me and we can see whether we can work together. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching this video and see you guys in my other videos.